Prosecutors say Hannah Gutierrez-Reed transferred narcotics to someone else on the day of the shooting to avoid getting caught with the drugs on her. Gutierrez-Reed was already facing involuntary manslaughter charges in the death of the film's cinematographer. The same charge against Alec Baldwin was dropped in April, but could still be reinstated. Joining us now is criminal defense attorney Brian Claypool. Brian, thank you for hanging with us. So what now? What does this new charge mean for the investigation in your view?
Hey, Kelly, great to be back with you and happy Friday. Yeah, I think the bigger ticket item here is if they have evidence that Hannah Gutierrez-Reed was in possession of illegal narcotics on the day of this tragic shooting, then can they connect that with her erratic behavior to help prove the involuntary manslaughter charge? And what I mean by that is, look, what she allegedly did is put a live piece of ammunition in that gun that Alec Baldwin allegedly shot. So if they've got evidence of drugs at the scene of arrest and she's in possession on the day of, they should be focusing their attention on her possibly being under the influence on the day of the shooting, and then that explains her erratic behavior with the live ammunition.
Brian, how difficult would it be to connect those dots in this case?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I was thinking about that. One great way to get an answer, Kelly, is a blood test. I'm praying, fingers crossed, that the New Mexico County or Albuquerque County prosecutors, or Santa Fe, I'm sorry, got it right on the third one, but praying that these prosecutors did some kind of blood test of Hannah Gutierrez-Reed. I mean, wouldn't that seem reasonable given the circumstances? I mean, they went there that day. Did they observe anything unusual in behavior? Did they smell any alcohol? Was their behavior erratic? Did that lead to them doing any kind of blood test? But to your question, I mean, if they didn't do any kind of blood testing that would show that she had illegal drugs in her system, and they only have this independent charge of witness tampering, but they can't connect it to the day of, then I don't think it's going to help their case then.
Interesting. And you would assume that that sort of testing would have been done. We'd love to get your take on another story we are following. And this one is absolutely heartbreaking. We're getting new details about the death of 5-year-old Harmony Montgomery. Newly released court documents allege her father, Adam Montgomery, beat her to death in 2019 in a fit of rage after she had a bathroom accident. His estranged wife told detectives Montgomery repeatedly punched his daughter with a closed fist, saying afterward, "I think I really hurt her this time. I think I did something." Now, her remains have never been found. Does it make it harder for the prosecution to prove its case?
Kelly, this case hits home. I work on many civil cases against county Department of Children and Family Services agencies. And clearly that's one of the issues there. I'll get to your question on the body issue, but this is staggering. There had to have been red flags that this little girl was being beaten up by these parents. I mean, they were in homeless shelters. That would be a red flag. I guarantee you, if they do a deep dive into this, there would have been prior reports of these parents neglecting and beating this little girl. And then you got to get into a second tier analysis. How did they miss this and why wasn't she rescued? But getting back to your question, they can clearly go after this monster for first-degree murder. You don't need the body if you have circumstantial evidence to prove that there was a death here. That's the standard. I mean, remember that case, Kelly, recently with Anna Walsh in the Boston area, where Brian Walsh, the husband, he's charged with first-degree murder, and they never found Anna's body. And here you have clear circumstantial evidence. You've got staining on the wood floor that they can test for residue of her body. It was in their apartment in the attic area. The child was stored in a freezer, believe it or not, of where at a pizza joint this guy worked with. And then last, they've got this video of a truck driving across the freeway in 2020. And that U-Haul truck was allegedly the truck that dropped her body into the river somewhere. So that clearly is enough circumstantial evidence for them to charge with first-degree murder absent the body.
That is a story that's almost impossible to wrap your mind around. Brian, thank you for breaking that down for us. Before you go, we wanted to get your take on this. So there is a judge in Florida, this is a murder trial, and he allowed a witness to testify wearing a black ski mask. A rapper known as YNW, Melly, is accused of murdering 2 men in 2018. The witness is an undercover detective who says he's gotten threats, death threats related to other cases, and he needs to hide his face. At least 2 jurors raised concerns about his testimony, one of them writing to the court, "Why does he get to see us, but we don't get to see him?" Another juror asked for a break during testimony, writing, "I need a moment. I can't listen properly. When I was a child, I saw someone get robbed, and I'm having an anxiety attack." Brian, have you ever seen something like this before?
Kelly, this is unprecedented. I had to read this article twice when your staff sent this to me. I have never seen anything like this. And what is the prosecution thinking, Kelly? That's their witness. Why would they want to do something that's upsetting to jurors? One of the jurors reported, "Hey, I had trauma from a childhood robbery that I witnessed. That reminded me of that." I mean, how silly of this is to have the prosecutors allow this to happen and then a judge to permit it as well. It's going to traumatize the jurors, and they might miss the point then on the case and rule against the prosecution. But bigger than that, isn't there some other way to get this evidence in other than him having to come in with a mask? I mean, couldn't they have done some tape testimony, for example, where they don't show his face, right? Because a lot of the testimony he's giving, Kelly, is what's called foundational evidence, right? Any surveillance that might have been done, any photographs that need to be entered into evidence. We saw that in that Murdaugh trial, remember? Took a day to get evidence authenticated. There's other ways to bring that in. Maybe they could have brought in a different witness. But this is traumatizing. Bad decision by the judge, bad decision by prosecution.
It certainly seems absurd. Brian, do you think this move will impact the case in any major way moving forward?
It depends on what the rest of the evidence is, Kelly. I don't know all the evidence in the case, but I rest assured of one thing. The prosecution better have a boatload of prima facie, tangible evidence to prove up these murders, independent of this guy's testimony. Why? Because you've already got a couple of jurors over there that are upset at the prosecution for having allowed it. Look at that picture on your screen. He looks like a murderer. That reminds me a little bit of Brian Kohlberger. Remember that picture allegedly of him leaving the scene in the Idaho murders? I mean, this could very well impact 1 or 2 jurors that might lead to a hung jury in what otherwise should have been a slam dunk case.
Yeah, certainly an interesting call, to say the least. Brian Claypool, thank you for joining us.
You bet. Have a great weekend.
You as well.